Hey, what's up guys, it's Scares here and this is your spoiler warning. Fucking kill me. So, going into this episode, I was under the impression that it was going to be primarily about Super Saiyan Blue Vegito kicking the shit out of Merge Zamasu. And to an extent, it was, but oh my god. Okay, so firstly, it starts off with Goku doing the Kamehameha wave against Merge Zamasu's supernova-esque death ball attack, which I'm going to call the I'm a god and I'm overcompensating supernova. And there's a bit of a struggle, and if you watch carefully, Goku actually uses the burst Kamehameha wave, which is in Xenoverse 1 and 2, but it's an ultimate version and it's been turned up to like 11 and beyond. So Goku's putting more ki into the attack, and I thought that this was going to be Goku's life-risking attack, which was mentioned in the episode synopsis a few weeks ago. So then Goku, of course, because he's Goku, wins this beam struggle and his Kamehameha wave penetrates. Shut up, we're more adults here. And that causes Merge Zamasu's attack to just explode. And when the dust settles, Zamasu is just there staring at Goku. Not injured, but he looks like he's more shocked that he could do something like that. And then Goku being Goku, he realises this, then he just jumps up to Zamasu and just gets him in like a mean combo. And then here comes the first bit of fan service for the episode, and there is a shit ton. So Zamasu grabs Goku's shin, and it looks like Zamasu is crushing Goku's shin, considering Goku is just screaming out in pain at this point. So to escape Zamasu, Goku uses a technique that very well could have killed him right there. Kaioken. So we see Goku use Kaioken in his Super Saiyan Blue form once again. And what I love about Kaioken being used this time around is that Goku only used it for like maybe 2 seconds at most. If you guys remember from the Universal Tournament saga, Goku was in this form for several episodes continuously, and while it was very cool and it was really nice to see, it kind of lost the point of what Kaioken was intended to be. So I just love that it was used as like the desperation move. It just gives it more of an impact in my opinion, and I guess more finesse. So after Goku is able to free himself, we see him power down from the Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken to just Super Saiyan Blue, and then back to his base form with the Milky White Aura, which is the Saiyan above God form. It's more of a state of being, but you get what I'm trying to say. So Goku almost collapses and passes out, and he just drops down to where Trunks, Vegeta, Supreme Kai and Gomasu are hiding. So long story short, from here, Goku eats a sensu bean, then he mentions something and you just see Vegeta's face drop, and it's obviously talking about fusion. So Supreme Kai takes off his earrings and gives one to Goku, and then they give a sensu bean to Vegeta. Then he is eventually convinced to wear the Potara, then they fuse, and then Vegito jumps up from their little hidey hole, I guess you could call it, confronts Merge Zamasu, turns Super Saiyan Blue, then of course it goes to a break. So when we come back, Zamasu is there talking, and he's kind of like amused, and he's got his eyes shut, and he's got his massive Hulk hand, his massive purple melting Hulk hand on his head, like as if to say like, oh, how could this happen, like, and it comes off as Zamasu basically saying, oh, you're gonna try fusion now. I just thought that was a very funny moment in what would be normally a intense scenario. So because Zamasu is just taunting and not giving a shit, Vegito does something that I can only describe as a super god punch combo. It was fucking amazing. So fast forwarding, Zamasu and Vegito are in a punch clash, I guess you could call it. Zamasu then overpowers and wins that particular clash, and it looks like Vegito is legitimately hurt. He's on the floor, face down. So then Zamasu uses his sword attack and goes to stab Vegito, but it's just bait, and then we see one of the best attacks return. Vegito's Spirit Sword. None of that blue bullshit in Xenoverse 1 and 2. The legitimate golden Spirit Sword. And it just completely penetrates, stop it, Zamasu's chest. There's quite a bit of dialogue here, but I don't speak Japanese at all, so I don't know what they were talking about. But then Zamasu powers up, and I think his aura has now changed from basically the aura that Black Goku had, well, Super Saiyan Rose Black Goku, to more of a red aura. It looks more demonic, and it would make sense to change it at this point, considering the mutation that Zamasu is now under. So then we go to Trunks and Bulma appears and it looks like she's fixed the time machine. Trunks is then handed his broken sword, and isn't this supposed to be the Z sword? I'm not completely sure if it is, but the reason I think it is because in the manga adaptation we see a flashback of future Trunks training with Supreme Kai and Kibito, and he's using the Z sword and he's just been trained so he can then defeat Babidi and Deborah and prevent Majin Buu of his timeline from being revived. So if this is indeed the Z sword, wouldn't that mean the Elder Kai of future Trunks' timeline then be able to escape the Z sword? They may have messed up a bit there, but whatever, let's move on. Trunks is now examining his broken sword, but we'll then go back to Vegito versus Zamasu. So Vegito uses final Kamehameha, so I was right when I predicted that last week. It basically does nothing to Zamasu. Vegito then gets him in a barrage of attacks, and for a very split second we see Vegito's pupils glow blue and then they defuse. I also predicted that this would happen on Twitter just because it makes sense. This was after the synopsis came out saying that Vegito had a weakness, and the only weakness he could have would be the fact that it wasn't a permanent fusion. So I was wondering why the fusion wasn't permanent. I came up with two reasons why, and the first reason is because they are in a different timeline. So maybe you have to fuse in the same timeline where the earrings originated for it to be permanent. I'm not sure on this one because the timeline here is completely messed up, because if this is indeed true, what I'm thinking, then wouldn't this also apply to merge Zamasu? But again, I don't know, because only recently the official timeline came out saying that. It's really hard to explain because it's just such a mess, but I'm not actually sure which timeline Black Goku and Zamasu are from, so let's just assume that this isn't what happened. The only other explanation I can think of is that because Goku and Vegeta fused once and then defused because they were in Majin Buu, that could mean, perhaps, that they are now prohibited from doing a permanent Potara fusion, and if they try to do it again then it will be even shorter, and then shorter after that if they were to do a fourth time. I don't know, it's just something that I'm thinking about right now. So then Goku and Vegeta just eat shit, like they get fucking destroyed by Zamasu. And then we go back to Trunks, still examining and looking just really sad over the fact that his sword has broken. And then we see images of people in his sword as if they're reflections, but they're not. We see those two kids, the brother and sister, I'm guessing that's what they are. We see, I think Yajirobe was there, and we see the soldiers. I'm just thinking about this now, but the fact that his sword is broken kind of, like, if this is what they were going for, then it's very smart writing. It kind of represents future Trunks' Earth and the human race just being completely shattered and broken. And if that was indeed intentional, then that's just a beautiful use of imagery. In a sense, Trunks then snaps, not to the extent of just having no pupils and just going beast mode, but it's like he knows what he has to do, as if someone whispered to him, you need to do this in order to defeat Zamasu and bring peace back to your world. So then Trunks channels ki into his sword, and it then quite literally becomes a spirit sword. I'd love to show a screenshot of this, but fucking copyright sucks, so you guys will just have to wait and watch it yourself or just imagine it. But it looks really interesting. Trunks then turns into that new Super Saiyan form, which we still haven't been given a name for, but I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that it's going to be called the Spirit Super Saiyan transformation. He then engages Merge Zamasu and they have a bit of a sword fight, which just looks really cool and really intense. And again, fast forwarding to the really interesting part. Trunks then I can only describe this as a spirit bomb. Yes, a spirit bomb fused with a shining slash, burning slash. Basically spirit bomb with with a fucking sword. And he just completely overpowers Zamasu. When people say Dragon Ball Z is for kids, like, fucking watch this scene. Trunks then lifts his sword up while it's impaled in Zamasu, and he splits Zamasu in half, and But then the episode ends, and then the next episode preview is very interesting. So once again, spoilers if you don't want to be spoiled for what happens next. So merge Zamasu's spirit, his ki, his consciousness, probably his consciousness, then evaporates into the sky, and he's still alive because of course he's immortal. So basically his god mode times 10, because you can't exactly fight something that isn't physically there. Next we see a shot of a descending Xeno. Yes, Xeno. But the thing is, I don't think Xeno is necessarily happy to be there, and I don't just mean that because of the immortal merge Zamasu, which he's obviously going to wipe out of existence, let's be fair. But also because, if you guys remember back numerous episodes ago, it's mentioned that time travel is something that only gods are allowed to do. And even then, it's just going forward in time and then returning to your previous timeline, not going back in time, which is what Future Trunks has done. And now Goku, Vegeta and Bulma have technically gone back in time. I mean, come on, he's not going to kill them, but I know he's not going to be happy about the fact that they violated time like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does because of that. And the final shot, well, one of the final shots of the next episode preview is of Wiz, and it looks like he has a headache, and Beerus on planet Beerus looking on in the distance as if he's worried and concerned about the well-being and the lives of Goku, Vegeta and Bulma, and Trunks I guess. So to finish off this video, I want to make a prediction as to what Xeno is going to do. So feel free to save this video and come back to it next week or whenever and see if I was right, or if I were miles off, which I probably am to be fair. So of course, Xeno is going to completely destroy and just obliterate merge Zamasu, and I think he's going to toy around with the idea of just destroying Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, out those guys. But Goku will say, well, if you destroy me, we won't be able to play, haha, I'm gay. Then Xeno will say, okay, fine, whatever. But then I think Xeno will impose some sort of special rule, which would mean that Trunks will never, ever, ever be able to go back in time or time travel at all. And same goes for our universe, well, you know, like Goku, Vegeta and Bulma. So I think if that is going to happen, then that's going to basically mean the end of time travel in Dragon Ball. And I think this would make sense because I don't think they should bring back Future Trunks again after this unless it's his own arc. Because if Trunks goes back in time and asks for help from Goku and Vegeta and those lot again because of a new villain, then isn't that going to undermine what this saga was about? Just think about it. You had an evil, okay, not really an evil Goku, but you had an evil Goku, and you had someone who was immortal, and then you fuse them together. Like, you can't top that, really, can you? So yeah, in exchange of Xeno's forgiveness, they will be prohibited from ever seeing each other again, which it is kind of sad, but Future Trunks' timeline is exactly that. It's his timeline. It's not Goku's, it's not Vegeta's, because they died off. And in closing, if you think about it, the only threat that could possibly have been in Future Trunks' timeline after Cell would have been Majin Buu and Dodoria, which they've already dealt with, and Beerus, which is now dead because Zamasu and Goku Black went to all 12 universes in their timeline and destroyed the Supreme Kais there, so that would mean that the Gods of Destructions would also die. So there's no threat, at least not at the moment, that would be big enough to require Trunks to go back in time and ask for their help for a third time now, if that were to happen, which I don't think it will. So yeah, that's just a bit of a recap of the episode and what I think will happen in the next episode. I honestly hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and a comment telling me what you think will happen. These Dragon Ball Super videos are quite fun to make, but I don't think I'm going to do it every single week. I will if something happens that genuinely excites me, like a new character, a new transformation and stuff like that. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.